All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And yes, there has been some pretty interesting news that has dropped over just the last couple of days. And I know people have been waiting for a video. And so we're going to take a look at some of these. First of all, it was revealed what James Gunn's next movie is that he is writing and directing. And again, it amazes me that everybody was really upset with Man of Steel and then jumping into Batman versus Superman with the Trinity and saying that everything was rushed when we're going at lightning speed here. And I can't believe, I wish James Gunn would get out of the way and let other people do the projects. I don't want to see him do any more projects. I don't. I hate every single project that he has done for DC. He's not a good writer. He's not a good filmmaker. He needs to get out of the way and let real filmmakers and real writers do their stuff because he's just going to mess everything up. But we're going to look at what he's writing and directing next. And I don't know if it's a secret project or not, but we're going to talk about that. There's a lot of stuff to talk about here in regards to the Batman 2 as well. And so we're going to get into it. Plus, we're going to look at some actual numbers, more stuff. We're going to bring Grok into it today. There's going to be some interesting stuff to show. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing I wanted to show you here is basically it's a comparison of the first 5 DC movies, DCEU movies, versus when the MCU came out. The DCEU is in blue, the MCU is in red. And you can see that every single film outdid what Marvel did at the beginning. And there are so many people that will tell you that these movies ruined DC, that they ruined the universe. Yet they were wildly more popular than anything the MCU did when it started. And they started not right next to each other, but close enough to where you can get a direct comparison here. And it's just insane when you look at Iron Man versus Man of Steel. If you look at the Incredible Hulk versus Batman versus Superman. If you look at Iron Man 2 versus the Suicide Squad. Thor versus Wonder Woman. Captain America versus Justice League. And the DCEU, especially in those later films, did twice as well as anything that the MCU was doing. So it's pretty crazy that so many people consider it a failure when it clearly was not. Grok chimed in on this, saying, yes, the claim holds based on worldwide box office grosses comparing the first 5 DCU films, Snyder letter spin-offs, to the first MCU films. Man of Steel made $668 million versus Iron Man, which made $586 million. Batman versus Superman made $874 million versus the Incredible Hulk. So they go down the list, Grok does, and says, no, this ignores release years, inflation, and direct competition, which obviously they were pretty close to each other, so it's not out of the realm of being pretty close to the same time. Also, there are reports out there now that Superman is moving to an August 26th digital release rather than the 15th that was rumored. We shall see. I don't see anything official just yet, but these are people just throwing out numbers. Also, it was revealed some concept art for Superman without his trunks, which I think would have been better. And so they have some photos here. They have, a photo. This probably comes from the Superman Art of Superman book. I'm not sure. But this was posted by the Legacy of Nerd. And the suit actually looks better like this. Just all the way around it looks better. And this suit was tight-fitting, not loose-fitting like what it was in the actual film. So there's some casting going on for My Adventures with Green Lantern. Looks like they're going to go with Jessica Cruz. So they are skipping a whole bunch of other Green Lanterns, and they're going right to Jessica Cruz. And it says a casting call has reportedly gone out for Jessica Cruz in My Adventures with Green Lantern. Jessica, aged 14 to 15, is described as a chronically anxious freshman who ends up being chosen by a magic ring, to be the cosmic champion of all life. The actor will also be required to sing. So this shows you where this is going. I'm going to say pass on this. Now, I just about laughed when I saw this. People were posting this like this is some amazing feat. It says Peacemaker Season 2 is the #1 most anticipated show of August, according to Rotten Tomato users. When does all of a sudden Rotten Tomatoes is the be-all, end-all? Like, so many of these shows would hate on Rotten Tomatoes until Superman came out. Until now that they're showing, Peacemaker is the most anticipated new show. Of course it is. There's nothing else coming out. It's probably the only show coming out in August. And so this is nothing other than smoke and mirrors. Now, this is actually pretty freaking cool. I am looking forward to this. It said this comes from Philip Kennedy Johnson, who is writing this new Superman comic called Adventures of Superman, Book of L. And this starts, I believe this comes out sometime in, I don't know if it's October, maybe November, I'm not sure. But it says, Philip Kennedy Johnson posted this, and he said, Adventures of Superman, Book of L #1 from DC Official. It's the last week to get in your pre-orders. Hit up your local comic shop and reserve a copy. So I will be having this added. This actually sounds very interesting, is going to tie into some of his previous work. He actually posted a video for this. So comics right now are just doing much better than the movies for a change. For a while there, the comics were terrible and the movies were pretty decent. Now things are starting to switch. And we've got some really good writers working on stuff. And we're going to see something also from Scott Snyder here in a few minutes in regards to Absolute Batman. So South Cali guy posted this and said they are finally accepting defeat. Article is excuse after excuse as to why it won't beat Man of Steel, but never really gives the true reason. It's simply not that good, and I totally agree with that. I think the movie is terrible. And Fandom Wire posted why James Gunn's Superman can't beat Man of Steel at the box office, and it's all right. James Gunn's Superman might not defeat Man of Steel at the box office, but that is far from a doomsday scenario it might seem. So they are definitely making excuses. And they're not trying to hide it anymore. It's not going to gross what Man of Steel did 12 years ago. So a lot of people were posting this, that The Batman Part 2 has officially moved into pre-production with principal photography confirmed to begin. This says January 1st, 2026 at Warner Brothers Studios, Leviston in London, UK. This actually has been moved to the spring of next year. And we're going to see what the release date supposedly is. And we've got more stuff to talk about in regards to The Batman Part 2 here in a few minutes. So I'm going to show you this funny post I did on X. It's not funny, but it's very true, and we're going to see how Grok will back this up. But this person, Luis Fernando, was posting a bunch of things on how Superman beats all these different movies at the domestic box office here in the U.S. And a lot of these movies are movies that came out like 20 years ago. Like, it's crazy that they're trying to compare the money it's making today because tickets from 20 years ago, way more. And so to match it and beat it, it's not the flex they think it is. And I said, I want to know how much Warner Brothers is paying this guy. Tickets were way cheaper with those movies. This is not a big feat like they make it out to be. Way fewer people are actually seeing the film than those other films, minus Jurassic World Rebirth. Please post full numbers, including international. Tell the whole story. All of a sudden, everyone's concerned about domestic, not international, which that's not how movies work. And here's what somebody asked. So, Luis Rodriguez, he's in my comments quite a bit. He posted, Grok, is this true, based on what I said? Grok said, yes, the domestic box office figures are accurate. Superman has reached $320 million, surpassing those films. However, due to ticket price inflations, $566 in 2001 versus $1131 in 2025, it attracted fewer viewers than most of those other movies. Worldwide, Superman stands at $557 million. So Aaron Levin posted it, chimed in and said, were Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon movies successful on Netflix viewership? Grok posted, yes, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon films were successful on Netflix by viewership metrics. Part 1 amassed 112 million views. Part 2, 56 million, totaling 168 million, despite poor reviews. They topped global charts with director's cuts hitting in 61 countries in July of 2025. Then Aaron Levin asked, was Zack Snyder's Justice League a global phenomenon? Grok posted, yes, Zack Snyder's Justice League was a global phenomenon. Released in 2021 on HBO Max, it broke streaming records. 1.8 million U.S. household in days, top in Canada. Trended worldwide and was officially termed such by Warner Brothers media execs. Fan campaigns drove massive viewership despite some bot controversies and mixed reviews. There weren't really any mixed reviews. Everybody agreed that that movie was way better than what they released in theaters. So, this comes from Variety. The Batman 2 is set to begin filming in spring of 2026 per Warner Brothers Discovery. So this is the official word. So it has been greenlit, which means the script is finished. It has officially been greenlit. They are now hiring some of the roles for the film. We'll see if it ever goes into production and if it does get folded into the DCU. There is more in regards to the Batman that we're going to be looking at, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, and we'll take a look at this here in a few minutes. So this person, Alexander Longacre, asked Grok for compensation. Man of Steel sold 36 million domestic tickets and 67 to 70 million global tickets versus Superman's 26 million domestic, so it's 10 million behind Man of Steel, and 34 to 39 million, which is half of global tickets. Higher 2025 ticket prices boost Superman's gross, but Man of Steel leads in attendance, especially internationally. So you can't deny what's going on. There are way fewer people seeing Superman than these other films. So here was the big news that came out yesterday, and I wanted to do a video yesterday, but I have not had time. James Gunn is writing a super family movie via Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. So the next film that he is writing and directing is going to be a super family movie. Talk about rushing it. We've got Superman, then we're going to have Supergirl, and then how many other people is he going to shove into this? Because James Gunn has already talked about how he wants Lois Lane to get superpowers. So they're just jumping right into it, guys. There is no lead up. We're just going to jump right into this universe, and we're going to have a whole bunch of Supermen flying around, and yeah, this is what Gunn is doing. He cannot make a single superhero film. Even Superman was an ensemble film not focused on Superman. It was more, Krypto was more of a Superman in the film than Superman was. Now, I thought this was funny. According to Deadline's new report, which doesn't make this true, but it says Warner Brothers shareholders are praising the recent success of James Gunn's Superman, which has already earned $560 million globally. $560 million a whole month after release is not that great. Whereas Lilo and Stitch has made over $1 billion. And we're going to look at something in regards to some of the other films that have been released this year here in a few minutes. So we're going to take a look at James Gunn's DC releases for films versus Zack Snyder's. So the first two films that Zack Snyder did were Man of Steel 2013 and Batman vs. Superman in 2016. And you can see how high this chart goes. And then James Gunn's Suicide Squad was a total bomb at the box office. And then you had Superman, which has made just barely more than half of what Batman vs. Superman has made, and still hasn't reached the numbers of Man of Steel. Pretty pathetic. We traded this type of viewership for this type of viewership. Doesn't make sense. Now, this was interesting. Going to the Pictures actually asked Grok another funny question. Okay, let's do this the easy way. How much money would James Gunn's Superman have made today if ticket prices are the same as they were in 2013? Based on Superman's 2025 worldwide gross of $555 million as of August 6th, and average U.S. ticket prices, $813 in 2013 versus $1131 in 2025, it would have earned approximately $399 million at 2013 prices, assuming similar attendance. This is an estimate, as global prices vary. So, in reality, Man of Steel made $700-some-odd million, whereas Superman has really made a little more than half that. It's pretty crazy. Now, this is pretty cool. Scott Snyder posted this. He is the writer of the Absolute Batman series. And he said, if you told me last year that Absolute Batman would be at number 1 10 issues in, I didn't think it'd be number 1 at the first issue, and the Absolute books would be all over the top 10, winning Eisners. Huge congrats again, Kelly. and a couple of other people. I wouldn't have believed it. Thank you guys so much for the love you're showing these books. It's changing things in comics, and we're so grateful. Best fans. Love this post. You can see that for the particular week, the top 200 comics by units. Number 1 was Absolute Batman number 10. Number 3 was Absolute Superman number 9. You have Batman number 161 with Hush 2, number 4. And Absolute Wonder Woman number 10. Absolute Flash number 5. Absolute Martian Manhunter number 5 of 6. Like, the Absolute Universe is all over the top 10 consistently. And these are the more serious, mature storylines that the audience is looking for. They're looking for it in comic books, and because DC is giving that to the audience, they are winning. In movies, if you go serious, you win. They're not going serious in the movies right now, and that's why Superman is at a measly $550 million. Now, I thought this was one of the funniest posts. Jason LeBoy Photography posted, "This is beyond true." And this graphic shows Superman getting a medal. And him biting on it. It says $600 million. Good reviews, flipping off the audience. DC is back, breaking open a bottle of champagne. And then you put it on the chart of DC films, and it shows how Black Adam made $391 million, Aquaman 2 made $460. Then you have Superman, but above Superman is Justice League, Man of Steel, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Batman vs. Superman, Aquaman. How all of those movies made way more, but yet they're saying with Superman that DC is back. Make it make sense. Now, this raises a few eyebrows here. Zaslav says that the Penguin and the Batman Part 2 are part of Gunn's 10-year plan for the DC Universe. Gunn is not in charge of this. Okay, he's part of DC Studios, but this is not under his umbrella for his 10-year plan. Now, what's interesting about this is this would lead people to believe that they are going to fold the Batman into the DCU. And I do think that this is a possibility because of a couple of things, and we're going to look at that here in a minute. So here it is, the last thing I wanted to talk about today, and this is crazy. And I think if this is true, I do believe that the DCU, that they are going to fold the Batman into the DCU. And this comes from the Snyder, and he's not always correct with his news. But it says Robin will reportedly appear in the Batman 2. The sequel is said to be a big swing from Matt Reeves and Mattson Tomlin, and just as dark as the original. Now, this will be interesting if this is true, because the DCU is going to be doing a Brave and Bold with Damian Wayne. I do believe that this may be their in. I do believe that this is why this has been delayed for so long. And the other reason I think this is happening, with the Batman Part 2 coming out in 2027, October of 2027, when is the Batman the Brave and the Bold supposed to come out? It's going to be at least 3 to 4 years from now, minimum, because they're not going to want 2 Batman films being released in the same year. And they don't want multiple Batmans running around. Zaslav has already said that. So I do believe that after this film is when they're going to announce, if it gets made, that they're going to fold this into the DC Universe. We already know Gunn has admitted he has been pushing for it for a long time, and he may have finally worn Matt Reeves down. And I do believe that if this ends up happening and this news is true, that is what is going to happen. All right, guys, so what do you think about all this crazy news? What do you think about the real numbers for Superman? What do you think about Robin appearing in the Batman 2? What do you think about possibly folding that into the DC Universe? And what do you think about James Gunn immediately going into a super family type film, writing and directing that, the next big thing on DC's plate? It's like their original plan and their second original plan. They're not really following anything. They're just throwing all kinds of stuff out there right now. It's pretty crazy stuff. But there's my update for the day. I do appreciate the support. We will see you guys on the next video.